Conquering Manhood, Session 007.
Conquering Manhood. Command your legacy. Take action. And conquer all.
What lessons on our journey of conquering all can we learn from one of MMA's heavyweight champions of the world? On our life journey, we will inevitably face challenges, get knocked down, and have to stand back up and fight. In this session of the Conquering Manhood Podcast, we talk about the mental mind frame required to succeed in the metaphorical octagon or in the ring of life. Thank you for joining me in Session 007. Before we get started, let me introduce you to this Big 8's giveaway, The Body of a Conqueror. The fitness program I developed after tiring of trying every bodybuilder gimmick under the sun. This fitness program is developed for the busy entrepreneur, the husband and father who just doesn't have the luxury of living in the gym. Let me show you how I only work out 3 days a week and still achieve the body of a conqueror. Go to conqueringmanhood.com/BOC to learn more. Now, on with the show. Welcome back, Conqueror Nation, and thank you for joining us today for Session 007. Today's featured conqueror is a legend of the MMA, former UFC Heavyweight Champion. He's also made a name for himself outside the ring, appearing in numerous television shows, movies, and video games. He's a 3-time King of Pancrase World Champion. He finished his fighting career with a 22-fight unbeaten streak. He coaches MMA, has authored several instructional materials, and he also is an inventor and creator of the O2 Trainer, which is a system designed to strengthen your lungs of athletes, singers, musicians, scuba divers, you name it. It's for your lung resistance. It's amazing. Conqueror Nation, I present to you one of the best MMA fighters of all time, the living legend, Bas El Guapo Rutten. Bas, thanks for coming on, brother.
Thank you. That was quite a list.
That's all you, man. All your accomplishments. I love it.
Yeah.
So, Bas, tell me a little bit. Give me the backstory on the call sign El Guapo.
Well, I used to call myself always when I was fighting. I never liked these guys with the Terminator or the Aggressor, whatever, all these crazy nicknames. So I always called myself I'm the most handsome fighter in MMA. And in 2000. We were having the Pride Fighting Championships in Japan, and with breakfast, it's a big happening there because everybody wakes up early, and we're all having breakfast together, and we're sitting at the table with a whole bunch of fighters, and Tina Shamrock, the ex-wife from Ken Shamrock, is there also, sits at our table, and she's Mexican. So we're talking about the movie The Three Amigos, one of my favorite comedies, and I said, what does it, by the way, mean, El Guapo, because the bad guy, and he says, oh, and she started laughing, it means the handsome. I said, oh, funny. And then I believe it was, I always say, Kevin Randleman. I think when he got up, he says, okay, Guapo, see you later. And that was it. The next day, everybody was at the table, called me Guapo or El Guapo.
That's a good story, man. So a little backstory about me, right? I'm in the Marine Corps, and in the Marine Corps, we give each other call signs all the time, especially in the aviation world, the pilots do. And they never give themselves cool names like the Crusher or El Guapo. They always give each other's names that nobody really wants. And there's this guy who looks like a 12-year-old kid, and they call him Fetus. And every time I looked at him, I could not stop laughing because he completely looked like a child. But good times back in the days.
It's like Mr. Pink in the Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to change my name. And he says, well, nobody's changed your name. He said, yeah, you got a cool name. You're Mr. Black, but I was Mr. Pink. Having this whole conversation.
Exactly. But, hey, you got El Guapo. You're a handsome man, so it fits well, so it's all good.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I always wanted to look like Bond, James Bond, Sean Connery, when I would grow old. And now I'm getting my gray beard, and I'm so happy because, it might happen that I look a little bit like Sean Connery when I grow old.
Maybe the gray hairs.
That's it. Yeah, the gray hairs. He's way too good looking, that guy.
Yeah, he is. All right, my man. So here at Conquering Manhood, brother, we love to start off with a success quote and mantra that you, as a conqueror, tell yourself to self-motivate yourself or guide you whenever you feel like you might be coming off track. Do you have a success quote or a mantra that you tell yourself like that? And tell us what that is and then how that applies to your life.
I've been always very fortunate. What I tell myself I'm going to do, I'm going to do. And if I don't do it, I literally cannot look at myself in the mirror. So when I would fight or when I would do something in the morning, if I decide the next day before, and most of the time I decide what I'm going to do the next day, the day before. And then when I say, okay, this is going to happen tomorrow, and if I don't do it, then at night I'm really bad at looking at myself. I feel horrible, and that's why it never happens, because I always make sure that I do everything. And I was in training, became helpful because I just say, okay, today I'm going to do this, and even if it was super hard and if I had to do too many rounds and I was tired and I couldn't do anymore, I had to do it. I had to finish it because otherwise, I'm disgusted with myself.
That's excellent. And I love how you prepare for yourself the night prior before the day begins. But do you have something that maybe in the moment you don't feel like accomplishing that thing that you assigned the night before, and you maybe tell yourself or you coach yourself in a way so that you do complete it? Like, man up, boss, or you the man, boss, or do you tell yourself, do you talk to yourself or pump yourself up that way?
No, you know what I do? I tell myself, I'm really good at talking to myself. That's why I almost was never nervous for a fight, because, you just go over in your mind, but it's the worst thing that can happen. And it's really not that bad. All these guys who say, I'll fight till the death, it's not going to happen. You have a referee there. If it's bad, they'll stop the fight. If I get it in armbar and my arm before my arm breaks, I'll tap. I mean, so it's not that bad. If you get knocked out, you're knocked out. You don't even feel it. You're probably going to wake up in a dressing room. That's what they say. So, it's not that bad. So, but I always tell myself, if I finish it, I will be happy. And because it's hard right now, but most of the time also when it's something really hard, I just walk away from the computer. Let's say it's behind the computer I'm working and I'm stressing out. I have to really focus. You can only focus so long. I'm just going to make a cup of tea, not coffee at that moment. And I come back and I relax and sit down, drink a tea, and then boom, I go full on in it, because I tell myself, once it's done, I'm going to be so happy. I'm the guy, when you send me an email, I would like to have that email replied today. I want everything that comes in today, I want to return that, because tomorrow I'm going to have another 30, 40 emails. And then if I have two left, that's 34 or 42, whatever. So it keeps on coming. So I like everything right away. I work it off. And I just tell myself I do it. And then I do it.
It's just that simple, and sometimes we don't have to overcomplicate things. So we love it. First off, Bas, also, I want to congratulate you on your nomination to the Hall of Fame, man. That is well-deserved. Awesome when I saw that happened for you back in May, right?
July 11th. I got it. I'm actually sitting next to the trophy, believe it or not, because in Holland, a woman was here for the newspaper in my hometown, and she did a whole story on me, and I have it outside there, because she asked me to send a picture of it, so I just made a picture of it, and I sent it out. Now I'm looking at it. This thing weighs 18 pounds.
Wow.
It's a trophy of 18 pounds. The craziest thing. It's a weapon.
A weapon of mass destruction.
Yes.
That's awesome, brother. Congratulations. So let's kick into a little bit about your personal life, and then you can tell us how you got started into the whole fighting world.
Okay, yeah. Well, I was bullied as a kid. I had a horrible skin disease, and I had severe asthma attacks. So I was a skinny kid who had to wear gloves and long sleeves and turtlenecks and stuff like that. And I had spots in my face and on my hands, So automatically you get bullied. And that went on for years and years and years. And, so you always take it. I was not a big guy in revenge in the beginning. But, eventually, I always say it's the drop that makes the bucket flow. That's an expression from Holland. And I saw a Bruce Lee movie, Enter the Dragon. And then I realized that if I would become like that guy, or at least half that guy, then Bruce Lee, that would be the answer. Nobody would mess with me anymore. So, I asked my parents if I could please do martial arts. And they stopped me for 2 years because they thought it was violence. And then finally, after 2 years, they said, okay, because every week I asked them. And I started doing Taekwondo. And I was taken under my wing by the neighbor. I had a beautiful neighbor girl, and she had a boyfriend, the tough guy in town, and he took me under his wing. He always helped me out with it. So I was training with the adults, and it went super fast from there on. It was literally months. I was beating up the brown belts there who were adults, and I was 14. So I heard these guys, they started laughing in the dressing room, they were telling the story. Did you see Bas kick that guy down? Oh, that is so funny. So I started getting confident. And then that one day, the biggest bully in town, the fight came. A whole bunch of guys, 6, 7, 8 guys, I don't remember anymore, but they shouted something at me again. It was most of the time something about, hey, leper, do you still have your ears, because they always called me a leper because of my skin disease.
Yeah.
And this time I shouted something back. And everybody was on a bike, and they were passing me, and I was on my bike, bicycle. I heard them laugh, and I looked backwards, and they all started chasing me. But I right away stopped my bike, put it on the stand, and I was just waiting for them. I told myself it's not going to happen anymore. Now I'm gonna stand up now, and it worked, man. They surrounded me. The biggest bully, Shaki was his name. He came and he started pushing me, and I knocked him out, one shot. But the problem was he broke his nose in the process. So that meant that the police showed up at my mom and dad's doorstep, and of course they took me off Taekwondo right away because it got verified now that it was violence. So, but and I have to say though, my parents never knew that I was bullied. I always kept that away. I never wanted other people to know. I never wanted to make pictures. I have no pictures of my childhood almost with the eczema. I always, was very protective of that. I don't know why, but when I left the house around 20, 21 years old, that's when I started doing everything: Taekwondo, karate, Thai boxing, competing Thai boxing. And that's just started escalating, and then eventually it became mixed martial arts.
The whole bully epidemic, especially here in the United States, it's going pretty big. And so do you have any warning signs perhaps that parents can look at? Because, it sounds like your parents had no clue because you're good at hiding that. But those are important things that parents need to be able to look at and to identify so that they can potentially stop something bad. Like, this kid's killing themselves nowadays about this.
It's so sad, but if they're really good at hiding, I was always the class clown. Because if I couldn't get attention normally, then because nobody liked me, I was going to get it a different way. So I was always in trouble in school, because the teachers, I drove them nuts, but because of that, I had this whole mask, so to say, this funny mask, and that's how I dealt with problems. So my parents, they just never knew. And if you have another guy, a kid, who can do the same thing, you never know. But if you have a kid that comes home and sits home and goes upstairs right away, sits behind the computer, doesn't do anything else, is a little sad, well, those are, of course, all warning signs, especially if they don't have a lot of friends, one friend once in a while. If they start changing friends the whole time, not a good group of guys, that's most of the time a sign. And then, you're going to have to talk. But, man, it's so sad if they don't want to talk about it. A lot of these kids feel embarrassed, and they're already embarrassed in school. They don't want to be embarrassed at home.
Yeah, I understand, man. It's just a shame, how the world's going with that. But I'm glad that you touched up on that today, and our listeners those that have kids can make themselves smart on it because it's a real issue.
The kids should understand, the bullies, high school and college, maybe it's already over. You have a few of them there, but, high school is most of the time where the bullies are. And that's where they peak. Those are the 4 years of their life. That's it. The bully should just understand that if these guys are not born into money, at the moment they leave high school, it's all going to go all downhill from there. Because they're not the tough kids, they're not the jocks, they're not the, most of the time they're the dumb kids with the lower IQs who have, for the rest, nothing to offer. Because if you really think about it, a bully, it's a very sad thing. If you have to team up, gang up on a weak kid or a weird kid, and then that makes you feel good, something is wrong with that kid as well. And whether it's at home, home situation, maybe mom and dad fight all the time, that could be bad, but then for a kid like that, I have friends who come from a violent household, the mom and dad always fighting and drunk, but these guys are the best for their kids because they have brain cells and they actually know that they don't want their kids to feel like they used to feel in the past. I can't comprehend. I can't wrap my brain around how kids, when they see this happening at home and the brothers and sisters are crying, how that could be good to do to other kids. So the only conclusion I can make is, well, maybe they don't have the brain capacity, and that's probably the case.
All right, Bas. Well, so back in the days, and it all started when you kicked your bike stand down and you stood up to these 6 or 8 bullies. And then from there, we fast forward, and you had a reputation pretty much of a wild man, and I bet you have a bunch of hilarious stories with that. But what I'm most interested in now is your perspective on like street fighting compared to your professional fighting. Since you've done plenty of both, can you tell us about your mindset when it's about to go down?
On the street, once you start professional fighting, it's I mean, it's stupid to fight on the street. And I tell them all the time, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do Why? I say, I don't want to beat you up. I'm sorry. Because you're not going to win. It's like me challenging Tiger Woods to a golf game. That's my job. I'll do this 2-3 times a day, every day, against really good guys. And I fight the best in the world. You're not going to win this.
Yeah.
Let's not do this. So on the street, the mindset is really relaxed because it depends, of course, if there's suddenly a knife or a weapon. Yeah, that's a very stressful situation. Thankfully, I never had crazy moments. I had them, but, I could talk my way out of it, but never had somebody really charging me with a knife, because then, of course, I'll probably run until I see the first thing that I can grab as a weapon as well, whatever it is, a stick, whatever it is, and then I will turn around. But otherwise, it's just a very dangerous thing to do because most of the time on the street, it's no reason, it's because people are drunk or it makes no sense. And that's why when I was a bouncer, I was always very good to tap into that. I was the bouncer, and from the 10 fights, 9 times we didn't fight because I would take these guys to the side and say, what's the problem? And then they told me the problem. It was always something stupid. And I said, really, really think about this. You guys really want to fight. One of you is going to lose. It makes no sense. Maybe the police are going to come. You're going to go to jail. All for this, what you're just telling me right now. And then 9 out of 10 times they look at each other and go, yeah, that is indeed very stupid. You just have to, tell them what the problem is. And a lot of bouncers don't. For them it's a chance to fight. Whoa, you want to boom, and I hit somebody in the face. I never was like that. As soon as I started mixed martial arts, understanding chokes, I choked guys out. I didn't want to beat him in the face, or I kicked him in the body. I don't want a drunk guy to wake up in the morning with no teeth.
It all started with, what was his name, Shaki?
Shaki van Erich, yeah.
It all started with him. He became famous. One punch hitter.
One punch, flat nose, knocked out, done. And all his buddies, I guarantee they were not really buddies because if they would have charged me, but they didn't. They were all afraid because he was the man. And that made me realize as a bully also that he didn't surround himself with real friends. Like that happens to my friend, I'm in there, But these guys are just with the bully because they're afraid as well.
Hey, so, Bas, sorry. So sometimes, like you said, if somebody's coming at you with a weapon or something, you have to revert to running away, which is always the wisest thing to do. But there's situations where, you have to stand your ground and you have to protect, let's say, your lady or yourself. You have a bunch of different fighting styles in your arsenal. But for the everyday guy out there who wants to, at least have some skills in his arsenal as a man to defend himself, what would you recommend he study so that he can move on from, not knowing nothing to at least have a stand-up game, or I say every fight always goes down to the ground within seconds. So a little something, right?
The best thing is always, of course, it's just to learn mixed martial arts. It's either wrestling and striking. That is a really good combination. That is the preferred combination for me because a street fight, it will go to the ground. If it goes to the ground, does he have friends? Can they do something while you're on your back, having him in the guard? You see, it's always good to know the ground game, but it's better to stay away from it if he has friends. So the best thing is just mixed martial arts. Just start doing that. And then for weapons, if you find a good Krav Maga school, but you need a good one. There's like in every system, in any system, like judo, karate, you name it. There's a lot of bad schools out there, and you need a school that is a good school with a good teacher. And unfortunately, in street fighting, that doesn't happen a lot, and it's a scary thing because these guys simply don't want to lose. I had a lot of teachers who wanted to learn my system, and from the first 12, 3 passed, and the other ones they didn't even come back. And I told them you pay a certain amount of money for a week, 8 hours a day, And I told them if you don't pass the test, you can come back for free, and if you don't pass that test, you can come back once again a week for free. You pay your hotel, of course, or if you live here, it's good. But I'm not looking for more money from you. I just want a good teacher. And if you're a teacher, you should know what I'm teaching you right now because you want to bring that over to your students. Yeah. Now, if that is in mixed martial arts already like that, then for sure it's in street fighting as well. The things I see sometimes on TV or on YouTube, it's just very scary. People just teach wrong things.
Well, in the pre-row, I heard that you sometimes train with the SEALs. What do you provide them, the Navy SEALs?
It's all hand-to-hand combat. I do with SEALs.
Interesting,
yeah.
Interesting.
So not with weapons. Sometimes I go with my buddy Amir Peretz. They did testing on him on National Geographic, and he took a gun away in 200ths of a second. And it's like literally that's how I met him. Like he showed me a knife. He wanted to show some knife things. I go, dude, I'm sorry, I'm I'm okay with that because I've seen this 1,000 times. I don't need this, you know. And he pulled out a pellet gun, and he loaded the pellet gun, and he gave it to me. This is in front of my students, and he says, okay, why don't you shoot me if you see me move? And I go, excuse me. He says, yeah, you can shoot me, but only when you see me move. And I say, okay, bet is on. And I tried 6 times. And I was not able to do it. And worse is, I get hit in the process while he stopped his fist, and he has my gun.
Wow.
Yeah, so I put that guy on National Geographic, and you know he's the very best at that. So in the beginning, the SEALs just wanted to do hand-to-hand, no weapons. And they always said, nah, you know, we don't need anything with weapons because, you know, preferably they shoot. Once it's hand-to-hand, it's wrong because everything needs to happen already being decided. Needs to be already being decided. Once they're in, you're shooting in fighting range, as you know, something went wrong.
Yeah.
And that's why they're with me. But if it's with weapons, I said, well, let me bring my friend once. They said, okay, bring him one time. They call him the Zohan now. Because he's really that good. He's also from Israel, so it's funny.
That dude's a ninja.
Yep.
For those in the Conquer Nation who want to follow in your footsteps, perhaps, and become a professional fighter, do you have like a one piece of advice that you would tell them?
I always say, why do you want it? Do you really want it? Or do you want it just because you like to see an Anderson Silva and all these top guys and it's cool to be a fighter? Because it's trust me, the road is going to be very, very hard. And the chances that you're going to make that is the same chance as you have going to the NFL, and play professional. So you're going to have to really pull out all the stops and go full 100%. And then once you make that decision, you say, no, I want to do it, you got to commit. And that's the same in the military. As you know, also when you commit, you commit. And that means 8 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock, not 8:01. That's not it. You'll be there before 8 o'clock. Like you show up with me late, that is not going to be tolerated. I'm very bad with that. I leave early, you leave early. I'll make always sure that I'm going to be on time. Things like that, you got a military style. You got to tell yourself what you're going to do and set your goals. And then the question that I always say, and I use this line a lot, you probably heard it, I say, how do you want to be remembered when you're gone? Just ask yourself that line. You wake up in the morning, you start training, and things are going to go down, and you're really tired, you want to stop training. How do you want to be remembered? You want to be remembered as the guy with a lot of talent but never really trained hard, so that's why he was losing. You want to be remembered as the quitter, as the guy who was the cheater, the used PEDs. How do you want to be remembered? You don't need to be remembered as a world champion. What if you be remembered as a fighter who, what other fighters, professional fighters say, dude, that guy, he was the worst to fight. He was always in shape, always learned, always got better. This guy's the toughest guy. I always was afraid to fight a guy like that. That alone, trust me, for a professional fighter, that's what you want to go for. Winning a title, that's the icing on the cake, but just being a good fighter, I think it's already super cool.
Yeah, that's what it was all about. But you mentioned that the road is a difficult one, if you have some advice for them. But, Bas, on the road to your heavyweight champion world and days, I'm sure that didn't come without failures. Can you share with the Conquering Nation one of your biggest failures and the lesson that you learned from that?
Well, for me, it was simple. I came by in the beginning because I was a striker. I knocked my first 2 guys out. And, first of all, let's back up really fast. In Thai boxing, I knocked a whole bunch of guys out. And then I took a fight after 3 years of partying and being a bouncer. That meant like going to bed at noon, like the crazy thing. And apparently I said yes to a fight on New Year's Eve when I was drunk. I didn't even remember it. And they called me 2.5 weeks before the fight. I still fought the fight. Needless to say, I lost. Stamina. I had no stamina, and that's why I lost. And that's what I always told myself. From that moment, I said, that will never happen again. From this moment, I will always be 100. It doesn't matter who your opponent is. Trust me, even when your opponent lost 12 straight, maybe he just had the light, the vision, and he started training so incredibly hard. And if you're a really tough guy who can take a lot of punishment with a lot of stamina, man, you can come far. So make sure your stamina is 100%. And then with me, it was early in stage. I was a striker. So I won my first 2 fights by knockout. Then I lost by submission. Then I won a few more. Then I lost by submission. Then I lost, and then my final fight, I lost against Ken Shamrock. It was a knee bar. And then I really came home. I was devastated by that because, 3 times losing by submission, 3 times, everything but 3s with me is not good. I'm a sore loser. So I told myself, okay, I got to learn this game now. So I started getting vocal. already a little bit before that, I found one guy I trained with, Leon Van Dyke. He helped me out tremendously. He was a young kid, 19 years old, and we just got insane, obsessed about the ground fighting. I mean, I tell these stories, people start laughing. I would wake up my wife in the middle of the night because I would dream a submission, and I would wake her up, put her in the submission, ask where it hurts, write it down. You know, the whole house was full with Post-its. She would walk through the kitchen. I would say, lean over, lean over. I would do a choke. I say, does this hurt or is this a blood choke? You get dizzy. You know, trying all these things out constantly. 3 times a day we started submission, and that was it. You know, I just committed to the thing that I was weak at. And as soon as I did, I never lost a fight anymore.
I think that's the key takeaway there is that you failed at something, but once you failed, you decided to take that and master it. And you got to the point where others might call you insane. You got posters everywhere. You're doing it 24/7, but you were committed, and that's what made you great.
And you know what? And this is I say to everybody, and they will look at me like I'm dumb. I say, understand what you're doing. And they go like, oh, whatever, man, it's a figure 4 armbar. So yeah, but understand it, because why are all these guys escaping a figure 4 armbar? That when you do it right, the correct way, it's harder to escape. You know, now that's a stupid example because there's other ways to escape. But you know, the positioning of the arm when you lift the elbow, all these things,
the mechanics,
you down first. And if you understand the mechanics and you really understand where it hurts, why it hurts, you know, how to stop it, how to do the counterattack, then you automatically also know how to escape it. It's very important for you to understand the submission. A lot of these guys in the beginning, they learned submission escape. I say, don't learn submission escape, learn the submission and understand the submission, because if you understand it, you automatically know how to get out of it.
I tell you what, one time, and I don't want you to feel bad about Cam Shamrock, but I faced him myself as well. He came to do an exhibition, and here we are. We face off, him and I, and he did like some cartwheel over my head, caught my head in his knees, and then did a Kimura with my left arm, and I was tapping while I was flipping over and on my backside, and I was like, man, this guy's good.
Yeah, that's it. But you know, he was committing also at the time. You know, it was so sad to see him against Kimbo.
Oh,
It was,
yes.
I mean, when he couldn't hold even top position, I go, dude, you should not fight anymore. I always had a great relationship with Ken, and because I always thought that I didn't like him or we didn't like each other. No, it's absolutely the opposite. You know, we always got along really well. But you know, when you see that, you know, this is not the guy from '95, 20 years ago, when I fought him. You know, it slowed so much down. That rear naked choke, he would have always had that.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he lock up the hand behind the head? You know, is that something you forget? Why, you know, because if you don't, they can peel it off. I mean, that's the golden rule. That's the first class they teach you with a rear naked choke. Don't hold your hand there. Put it behind his head, not only for more pressure on his neck, but also to make sure that they can't peel it off. You know, so that means that he just, unfortunately, because he's the same age as I am, maybe a year older, we got old, you know, and it's time to call it quits.
I like the fact that, you know, and that not good that you got injured, but when you did, and you were still at the height of your game, and so you came away with that unbeaten streak, and I think that's how most athletes should do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so too. It's very important to have that. Thankfully, I didn't realize, I think I realized it like after 12 fights winning, that somebody told me, hey, you're on a 12-fight winning streak. And I go, oh, I wish you didn't say that. Because now, you know, you start thinking about these things. And thankfully, I pushed it away again so that I wasn't thinking about keep the streak, keep the streak. I think it's a bad thing to think that, because then, you know, you're going to start fighting protective. You know, you're going to fight to win or not to lose. That's how you're going to fight. You know, you're going to be very careful. And I never wanted that. I'm always so proud to say for my 28 wins, I get only 3 decisions. And also proud to say 15 submissions. I came in as a striker. I have 10 knockouts and 15 submissions. So I really honed up my submission skills, and I started winning fights more by submission.
Yeah. Well, Bas, I want to bring it into your present day because you've done movies, TV shows, even video games. But what are you working on today, and what's got you excited when you wake up?
You know, it's the O2 trainer. It's a device that I invented when I was 14 years old with my asthma. I would realize, I did track and field, I would realize that when I would resume my track and field after an asthma attack, which would be like a week in bed, not able to eat, not able to breathe, not able to eat because I couldn't breathe. It's like real bad asthma. But when I restarted my track and field, I would break my running times every time. I would run better, run smoother. I don't know, and I always thought maybe it's the medication. It blew my mind all the time. And then I saw a poster of a drawing of a pair of lungs. They framed it at the doctor's office. And that's where I saw the infection. It's not in the lung sacs. You think it's in the lung, in the bag, so to say. It's not. It's the air pipes that go towards the lungs, and they're infected. So that was my light bulb moment. I realized, oh, man, I've been working out my lungs unknowingly for an entire week because my lungs had to suck the air in through that infected area. And unknowingly, I just made them stronger. And then once the infection is gone, it's much easier for my lungs to pull the air in. So why don't I come up with something that controls the air intake? And that was it. It was born. And finally, everybody knew about my invention. At parties, you tell it all the time. And then one person, the Ultimate Fighter was on. And Vanderlei Silva was training his students with snorkel devices. And that's when my telephone went crazy. And all my friends are calling me. They said, man, that thing that you were talking about, the Ruttenizer, that was the original name. They say, you got to make that thing. Somebody's going to come up with it. Look at him. He's training with snorkel devices. That's what the swimmers also do. And I go, man, okay. So I started looking around, looking for the patent. Found out that there was no patent for it yet. And got the patent and started making the product. And now it cured me from my asthma. I had asthma for 48 years. Even in my peak of my career, my world title fights, in the dressing room, you can train for about a minute and a half, then your lungs will close. Every asthma patient will tell you the same thing. And then you have to spray your lungs open, and then you can go. Now, right now, I don't even carry an inhaler anymore. The freedom is crazy. I can literally jump in the ocean, full blast, start swimming, and my lungs will not close. Also, asthma patients, when they sneeze really aggressive or violently 3 times, they're going to need an inhaler to spray the lungs open again because they close down. I don't have that anymore. And all my buddies the same. A friend of mine in Holland sells it. The only reason he sells it is because 10 days after working out with it, he didn't use his inhaler anymore. So right now we're working really on a lot of tests, and they're all looking great. I cannot publish them yet because they're going to be published in a medical journal first. And if I take them now, they're not going to go to a medical journal. So I want them in that medical journal, of course, but it just takes a little bit of time for them to come. And once I have them, I'm going to post them, I'm going to make commercials, and then, it's going to go on TV.
That's amazing. And I'll make sure to link that up on the show notes so that the Conquering Nation go check that out. I've seen images of it on your website, and I'm going to have to get it and try it out myself, do a review on it. Bas, what I want to do now is go into what I call the man up round. But before we do, let's thank our sponsors. This session is brought to you by Body of a Conqueror, the definitive guide to building muscle and strength. I discovered what it really takes to build reliable muscles that rapidly increase in strength, and is different from anything you've done before. To conquer fitness, go to conqueringmanhood.com/BOC. Conquering Manhood and all my other sites are run through InMotionHosting.com. If you want 30% off your web hosting plan plus a free domain name, check out conqueringmanhood.com/hosting to get that deal plus some bonus material for me. Now, back to the show. First question in the Man Up Brown Bas is, what is your proudest moment as a fighter? What is your proudest man moment?
That's a hard one. And it's weird because that was my 3rd title defense, and it was against Funaki. And because it was the first guy I lost to, the way they set it up for the rematch, end of my contract, he was the last guy, the last fight of my contract. They thought he was going to beat me again, so that would help them with the renegotiation. And then I turned it around and knocked him out. And that was a really proud moment for me because that guy was always, he was in my sight the whole time.
Nice. What's something that people don't know about you that would surprise the listeners?
I'm a soap guy. I like soaps. I can have like 12 different soaps here, whole high quality soaps. I'm really a guy also. I shower 2-3 times a day, so it's always, I make sure that I have really good soaps for that. I don't know why, but I just like that.
Oh, man, I got to tell you about Brickle. Brickle's men's product. They use like all organic ingredients in there, and they got awesome products there, so you should check them out.
Okay.
But that's
I
cool.
will do that.
All right. What advice would you give to somebody in the Conquer Nation out there who is trying to craft on their work, but they continue to get knocked down?
Quitter never wins, right? So it's all about keep on going. But there's all, of course, once you don't have the technique for it, and it'll keep on happening, then it's time to recognize that. But don't lose 2 or 3 times and then give up. It's always, when you ask any person who's successful, and I always listen to those guys, they always say, the actor who just wanted to quit but didn't quit, and suddenly he became big. And they all say the same thing, whether it's acting, musicians, whatever. They all say, do not give up on your dream, because it will happen. Now, of course, you're going to have to need talent for it. If you can't play guitar, you can never become a guitarist if you can play it very well. But, you just have to recognize that yourself. But if you have a dream and you're good at it, I would say stick with it. But make sure you always have a backup plan.
That's awesome. Bas, a book that you've read that's had the largest impact in your life? The
Alchemist. Everybody knows that. Paulo Coelho, that is the book that I tell all my students to read. But the way they tell, it sold 70, that is, million copies. So that happened for a reason. And another one is Matthew McConaughey. He said it at the Actors Studio. And since I'm a big fan of his, greatest salesman in the world. And that book is a very thin book, but it takes you 10 months to read. You have to read every chapter 3 times a day. It takes about 5 minutes every time you read it, so it's 50 minutes a day. But it gives you that military style thing. You got to wake up, read, first thing you do. Then you have lunch, read. And then just before you go to sleep, read again. And you realize that after 20 days, you can quote it. You memorize the whole thing, so it starts ingraining into your brain. And it's all little things that you think you already know, but you don't do. Wow. And that helps a lot.
Thanks for sharing that book. And to the Conquering Nation, The Alchemist is an excellent book. I haven't read the other one, but we'll check that out. We'll have a link up on the show notes. But if you want to get an influential book like Bas is there, make sure to go to audiobooks.com/conquer where you can get that book for free. This is my last question in the Man Up Round, Bas, and it's one that I ask all my featured conquerors. And that is, in your mind, what is the best definition for you of a conquering man?
A true man is a guy who helps other people. It's very simple. Who's a decent person, who lets people in front of him. Who's, when somebody's backing up at the stop your car, let that person go in front of you, because he's not on purposely trying to hit you. Trust me. I actually stop and I direct him out and I stop out of traffic. That's what I always do. I will always do that. Hold the door open for a person behind you. Simple stuff like that. Step up. If all the seats are taken, all people get in, you get up. Let the old people sit down. It's unfortunate, but it doesn't happen anymore. Just be a decent guy. That's what I always say. I think that's the top. Be a guy, it's crazy I say, like a Jesus. Be that guy. And then on top of that, if you could, if there's a problem and you could handle that problem, yeah, that's cool. That's a cool thing. But being a good person, I think that is being a real guy.
I love that. We just got Bas's lessons on how to be a gentleman. And also you touch on Jesus, which I wrote a post back on ConqueringManhood.com about 10 traits of the perfect man. And they were all about Jesus and things how we can just be like him. Even if you're not religious, you're going to be an outstanding person.
That's what I always say to people. They go like, oh, I'm a Catholic. And the people go, oh, right away the whole storm comes over you. And I go, dude, even if you're not religious, don't you want to be like him? Like that guy? Like, how cool was that guy?
The best guy.
He did everything good. Jesus was the perfect example. That's how people should be. Just help each other. When you help people and they do it back to you, there's nothing better than that. Success is cool, but, if you don't do anything with it, well, once you can help people with it, one of the emails I get from parents with kids who were sick, the same sickness as I had, or kids who get bullied, and I always answer those. I really go out of my way to answer those, because I truly believe it's the most important thing, give back.
Bas, you're a stand-up guy, and it just goes and speaks louder than words, and your actions are out there. I just want to thank you for sharing your story with the Conquering Nation. Before we say goodbye, let us know how we can connect with you. And if you got any parting words, please hook us up.
It's simple. Bas Rutten MMA. Most of the time, that's my Twitter. Most of the time, what I do is answer questions there. So I'm not that guy who tweets the whole time. I do this, I do that. Most of the time, just people ask me questions and I answer. On my Facebook, I post things like little videos and stuff like that. Also, not too crazy. That's just Bas Rutten, Facebook/Bas Rutten, Facebook.com. And that's it. Go to o2trainer.com. That thing will help you. I always say the survival rule of 3. That means that an average person can go 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, and 3 minutes without oxygen. Now, everybody focuses on the other two. Focus on the most important one. That's what I always say. Oxygen is the most important thing in your body. The more you have it, the better you can supply everything. The better your brain works, your muscles work, your heart works, everything works better. So focus on that. And then for the rest, how do you want to be remembered? I'm telling you, that line, Henry Ford, I believe, said it. When I heard that line, that's the line I use the most to myself. If I do something and I feel like, this is not cool, I don't do it. And if you want to go somewhere, don't walk over people to get there. Set out your goals, but don't crush the people who helped you. Always stay with the people that helped you. A winning combination, don't lose the winning combination. My stretching routine is the same as 23 years ago because it never got me an injury. And they always say, yeah, but it's so boring. I say, yeah, but hey, it works. I never got an injury, so I keep doing it. That's it.
Bas, man, thank you so much for giving us your time. The Conquering Nation salutes you, and to you, I say conquer all.
Thank you very much, and Godspeed. Party on.
Conquering Nation, Bas, an outstanding guy, really touched on just basic classic principles about being a man and being a gentleman. He even talked about taking showers and being more like Jesus. I mean, you think of a guy who's a professional fighter, and you think of, you listen to all his stories of back in the days when he was, fighting in bars and getting into mischief. But, the guy learned through life, is a stand-up dude, and I totally love and respect Bas. Make sure to follow him on all his social media links. I will detail everything that we spoke about today on the show notes over at conqueringmanhood.com/007. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this session of the Conquering Manhood Podcast, please share it with your peoples and also leave us an honest review of the show over on iTunes. Better yet, enter the Big 8 giveaway for your chance to win some of the manliest products and services available to a conquering man today. By entering on the Big 8 giveaway, you get to rate and review the show, plus you also get a chance to win. So head on over to conqueringmanhood.com/big8win for more info and click through the steps 1 through 3 to win. Again, this week's giveaway is my finished book, The Body of a Conqueror, the definitive guide to building muscle and strength. One lucky winner gets the book plus 3 coaching sessions from me to help you get that chiseled, aesthetic, and conqueror's physique that you've always been trying so hard to achieve but have never been exactly to dial it in. Transform your body into the conqueror's physique with this real approach. Enter the Big 8 giveaway, or if you want to buy the book, you can do that too. Go to conqueringmanhood.com/BOC. Make sure and subscribe to the show so you don't miss next week's session, where we're going to talk to the CEO and founder of one of the leading men grooming companies out there today. Subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. And to get everything we talked about today, go to conqueringmanhood.com/007, where the show notes have the highlights and the links to all the resources discussed during this show. Thank you again for listening. And until next time, conquer all.
Thank you for listening to Conquering Manhood. Now, it is time for you to conquer all. So take action. Head to conqueringmanhood.com and grab the 4 steps to conquering manhood, the ultimate guide, for free.